Good evening, ghoulish esteemed viewers. Tonight we join Eric as he orders a mysterious box. But when he receives a call from an unknown stranger, he'll find out that he may have gotten more than what he bargained for. If you enjoy spine-tingling stories like this, don't hesitate to creep up on that subscribe button and give it a scare, and remember to like this content and turn on notifications as I have more original horror tales coming your way. Now, let's get back to the scares.
Eric, a 31-year-old horror enthusiast, thrived on instant gratification, news, fast food, streaming movies. All it took was a click. His need for speed often left him unpopular with the ladies. One evening, while browsing for online horror collectibles, he stumbled upon a mysterious item, a Dybbuk box. Its haunting imagery captivated him. The seller, known as Deathseeker 97, had no portfolio or email, only this singular item. The box looked old but well preserved, crafted from brown leather with iron latches crisscrossing its surface. Eric recalled that Dybbuk boxes typically featured intricate lock and key designs. Intrigued, he placed an order. As he completed the transaction, he noticed the shipping options: 7 to 10 business days, $13 for 2-day shipping, or attempting $30 for next-day air. True to form, he chose the fastest option. After confirming the order, a strange shipping notification appeared. It stated the box would arrive at 4 a.m. Puzzled, he thought no packages arrived that fast. Eric wondered if it was a mistake or perhaps a scam. Frustrated, he attempted to request a refund, only to find the seller's profile had vanished. Just when he was about to give up, his phone buzzed with an update confirming the Dybbuk box's delivery at 4 a.m. A wave of relief washed over him, assuring him his money wasn't wasted. At midnight, his phone rang with an email notification. The sender was a man named Mark, with a subject line that read, "Urgent." Curious, Eric replied, asking, "Who are you? And how did you get this number?" Mark quickly responded with his phone number, urging Eric to call him. Skeptical, Eric opted to text instead. Without hesitation, Mark insisted he needed to send the box back for a refund. Confused, Eric replied, "Why would I do that? I just paid $30 to get it expedited." Mark responded, "If you don't, then you'll die." Naturally, Eric assumed it was a sick joke. He told Mark to leave him alone and lose this number. But Mark persisted, pleading for a call, promising to explain everything. "If you don't like what I have to say, I'll leave you alone. But I promise you'll call me back, and by that time, there'll be nothing I can do for you." Eric dialed the number but hesitated before hitting call, a mix of curiosity and skepticism lingering in his mind. Against his better judgment, he considered the warning. What could possibly go wrong with a simple phone call? He called Mark. Before the phone completed one ring, Mark answered with a trembling voice. Eric could tell he was smoking on the other side by the sound of his inhaling and exhaling a cigarette. With urgency in Mark's voice, he said, "Listen, Eric, you need to understand the history of the Dybbuk box. It's not just a collectible, it's a vessel for something much older than you and I." Eric responded, "Everything has a history: houses, the Applewood Ranch, the town of Drownsland, the Johnson's place, but that doesn't mean the rumors are true or that any of those places are haunted." Silence filled the phone as Eric received photo messages of unknown people dead beside the box. Mark asked, "Did you get that? These are 3 different people who ordered the same box to their homes, and all 3 ended up dead." Eric asked, "What happened to them?" Mark took a shaky breath before recounting the first story. The first was a guy named Aaron. He was a horror fan like you, always seeking the next thrill. When he got the box, he thought it was a cool piece for his collection. But soon after it arrived, he started hearing whispers at night, dark, taunting voices that drove him mad. One evening, his neighbors heard a loud crash in the dead of night. As they looked out their window, they could see a short, skinny figure with brownish-yellow eyes in his window, just staring back at them. It terrified the old couple. They called the police, and when they arrived, they found Aaron lifeless in his living room, the box open beside him. They said his face was twisted in terror, as if he had a heart attack. But what's strange is that when they did the autopsy, they found cuts on his actual heart, as if someone or something had been squeezing it. Eric felt the weight of dread settle deeper within him. But being the skeptic he was, he said, "I've seen movies scarier than that. Tell me what happened to the other two." Mark continued, "The second was a woman named Janice. She was a skeptic, a paranormal investigator who thought she could handle it. She opened the box, thinking it was just a myth. But within days, she became reclusive. Her friends reported that she was talking to herself, and sometimes they could hear other voices, her demeanor changing drastically, even towards her daughter. One morning, her friends found her in her bathroom with a broken neck. They said she slipped in the tub. But how can a slip turn a person's head 360 degrees? Also, her arms were still clutching to the box like a lifeline. No detective, nor doctors, of any kind could explain that, as there were no signs of struggle, just a look of pure horror frozen on her face. Eric asked, "How did you come by this information, and how do you know these pictures and stories aren't deep fakes? For all I know, it could be a story off a YouTube channel, Unchecked Horror." Eric's palms started to shake, almost as if he were getting goosebumps listening to Mark's stories. "What about the third?" he asked. Mark hesitated, as if the memory was too painful. "The last was my brother, Terry. He was a collector too, but he was also a prankster. He thought he could make a viral video out of the box, open it on camera, act scared, and get views. But what happened was far from a joke. He filmed himself unboxing it, laughing and joking as usual. But there was a moment when he paused, and you can kinda see something in the camera, but it looks something like this." Mark sent him an image of something that looks like a demon. Then he continued with his story. Terry looked around the room confused as the lights flickered. All you could hear was the sound of bones cracking, and afterwards the video cut off abruptly. They found him later that day, alone in his apartment, with the box beside him. "I'm still haunted by his facial expression," he cried. Sympathizing with Mark, Eric said, "I'm sorry, I didn't know." Mark warned him that he only had until 3 a.m. to return it. By that time, it would be too late. As he hung up, Eric, unsure of his decision to wait for his package to arrive as he already paid so much for it to arrive, or simply give in to what considered superstitious nonsense. Still, each story left him with goosebumps. As Eric went to bed, he stared at the notification on his phone as he dozed off. But when he woke up, it was 3 a.m. "It's just a box," he told himself, trying to shake off the dread Mark's stories had instilled. But fear poked at him as he tried to reach the cellar, now non-existent. Desperate, he called Mark back. "Okay," he said, "what do I need to do?" But Mark replied, "It's too late," and hung up, leaving Eric worried. The thrill he had felt earlier was now overshadowed by a creeping dread. As 4 a.m. approached, a sudden knock could be heard at the door. Cautiously, Eric crept downstairs. Terror washed over him when he spotted the Dybbuk box sitting ominously in the corner of his living room. With a shadowy figure looming over it, blending into the darkness, and he could feel the air being tucked out the room. Just then, his phone buzzed with a notification, "I'm here." Panic surged through him as he dropped the device and tried to escape upstairs. But an unseen force shoved him back down the stairs. Desperate, he made another attempt, this time more successful as he ran towards the bathroom, locking himself inside. Suddenly the lights flickered erratically, followed by the shower turning on, and a chilling voice seeped through the curtains, "Join me." Eric's heart raced as he caught a glimpse of a woman's silhouette, her head unnaturally tilted, arms stretching out from behind the fabric, reaching for him. Without thinking, he bolted from the bathroom, sprinting toward the front door. When he flung it open, he was met with a horrifying sight, a decaying mailman dressed in an old blue uniform, holding the Dybbuk box. Terror seized him, and he fell to the ground, scrambling backward. In doing so, he brushed against a figure behind him. All he heard was the sound of bones cracking as he slowly turned around and saw the grotesque and horrifying entity of a man resembling Terry, staring at him. Suddenly, he heard a woman's voice, now more distinct, whispering, "How's it hanging?" Her head fell to the side in an unsettling manner. With quick thinking, Eric grabbed the open box and threw a match into it, hoping that would solve the problem. The entity vanished. Eric sighed in relief as the house fell silent once more. After a few minutes, the fire in the Dybbuk box faded. As Eric picked it up, he muttered, "Never again." Suddenly, a voice resonated through the air, declaring, "You belong to us now," as the box clamped shut on his fingers, chopping off a few. He quickly lit another match, trying to burn the Dybbuk box further, but each time he lit one, it seemed like someone kept blowing them out. As he struck his last match, he glimpsed a demonic creature below his legs, extinguishing the flame. The entity slammed him against the ceiling, then the floor, and back to the ceiling again. Now visibly hurt, Eric crawled toward his computer, desperate to reach out for help as his live stream was just a click away. But the entity slammed the laptop shut, plunging him into total darkness. The air was filled with a bone-crunching noise, followed by horrifying screams and a final, agonizing gasp. Suddenly, the lights flickered back on, illuminating the screen, now displaying the Dybbuk box for sale, an enticing lure for another unsuspecting victim.